The night smelled like rain and rust. A full moon hung low behind a swarm of dark clouds, spilling pale light over the cracked road that seemed to lead nowhere. Ethan gripped the handlebars of his bike, his knuckles turning white. "We shouldn't be here," he said, his voice barely a whisper as he glanced over his shoulder. The trees on both sides of the road leaned in, their gnarled branches reaching out like bony fingers in the darkness. "Relax," Lucas said, flashing a grin that gleamed in the dim moonlight. "It's just a graveyard. It's not like anyone's home to complain." Milo laughed, a nervous, high-pitched sound. "Yeah, and hey, if we find a ghost, we'll make him TikTok famous." They'd been chasing dares and midnight thrills all summer, a desperate attempt to fight off the relentless boredom. But this one felt different. The Hollow Hill Cemetery wasn't just another spooky story whispered between kids. It was a place the adults in town actively avoided. The legends were dark. Kids who wandered in never came back the same if they came back at all. They reached the cemetery gate just past midnight. The old metal bars were bent and twisted, the words Hollow Hill nearly lost to rust and time. As if on cue, a sudden gust of wind pushed through the cracks, carrying a sound that was almost a whisper. Lucas, ever the brave one, gripped the bars and pushed. The gate groaned open with a piercing shriek that echoed through the silent woods, a sound that made the hairs on their arms stand up. The three boys stepped inside. Instantly, the air turned colder, clinging to their skin. Their flashlight beams sliced through the darkness, catching glimpses of crooked gravestones, broken angel statues, and a half-buried cross sticking out of the dirt like a jagged tooth. The grass under their shoes was dead and brittle, crunching with every step. "Smells like something died here," Milo muttered, pulling the collar of his hoodie up to his nose. Lucas chuckled, but it lacked its usual confidence. "Yeah, genius. It's a cemetery." They followed a crumbling stone path that led them up a small hill where the skeletal ruins of an old church stood against the cloudy sky. Its steeple had collapsed long ago, and the heavy wooden door was hanging by a single groaning hinge, creaking softly in the wind. And that's when they heard it. Faint at first, but unmistakable. A voice, singing. It seemed to come from somewhere deeper inside the graveyard, from the darkest corners their lights couldn't reach. It was a child's voice, humming a haunting lullaby that felt terribly out of place. Ethan froze mid-step, his heart pounding in his chest. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Milo nodded slowly, his eyes wide. "It's like a lullaby." Lucas, trying to maintain his tough guy facade, just smirked. "Come on, it's probably just some weirdo camping out." He pushed forward, his footsteps crunching loudly over a carpet of dead leaves, leading them deeper into the darkness. The further they went, the stranger things became. Their flashlights, one after another, began to flicker erratically, casting dancing, distorted shadows all around them. The air grew heavier, thick and damp, like a fog that wouldn't move, pressing in on them from all sides. The cloying smell of disturbed soil and decay grew stronger, filling their lungs. Ethan's flashlight beam caught something on a nearby tombstone. Words, crudely carved into the stone's surface. He leaned closer to read them. "They never left." He frowned, a cold dread washing over him. "Guys, look at this." Before Lucas could respond, the ground beneath Milo's foot shifted. He stumbled back with a surprised yelp, and the dirt gave way with a sharp crack, revealing a dark, gaping hole. The smell that billowed out was ancient, wet and rotten. "Whoa!" Milo laughed nervously, trying to regain his balance. "Almost fell." His words were cut short by a scream. Something had grabbed his ankle. Before Ethan or Lucas could react, he was yanked violently into the darkness. The earth swallowed him whole. Ethan lunged forward, his hands scraping raw against the ground, but there was nothing there. Just soft, loose dirt closing over the hole, as if it had never existed. "Milo!" he shouted, his voice cracking with panic. There was no answer, only silence. Then the singing started again. This time it was louder, seeming to circle them. And it wasn't just one voice anymore, it was many. A chorus of ghostly children. "Lucas!" Ethan's voice shook uncontrollably. "We have to get out. Now." but Lucas wasn't moving. His flashlight was fixed on something just behind Ethan, a pale figure standing among the graves. It was small, no taller than a child, with a stark white face that looked like melted wax. Its eyes were just hollow black pits, and its mouth was a wide, unmoving line. It tilted its head slowly, impossibly far to one side, a sickening crackle echoing in the silence. Then, in a voice that sounded like dry leaves skittering across pavement, it whispered, "You shouldn't have come here." Ethan grabbed Lucas's arm, trying to pull him away, but Lucas stood rooted to the spot. His eyes were wide, unblinking, fixed on the horrifying figure. "It's calling me," he said softly, his voice distant. "Can't you hear it?" Suddenly, the wind roared through the trees like a freight train. The whispering around them turned into a clear, rhythmic chant. From every direction, from under every grave, voices rose from the ground, dozens, maybe hundreds, all murmuring the same chilling word over and over. "Stay, stay, stay." That was it. Ethan ran. He didn't look back, didn't care where he was going. He just needed to get out. But every path he took just led him deeper into the maze of graves. The very ground seemed to shift beneath his feet. The church ruins appeared ahead of him again, even though he was sure he'd run in the opposite direction. And there, standing in the ruined doorway, was Milo, or something that looked like him. His hoodie was torn, his skin as pale and cold as stone. His eyes were black, empty voids, and when he smiled, his teeth looked wrong. Too many, too sharp. "Ethan," he said, his voice cracking like ice. "You left me down there." Ethan stumbled backward, shaking his head in disbelief. "You're not real. You can't be." Milo took a slow step closer. "You can join us." As he spoke, the ground behind Ethan split open with a deafening roar. Hands, grey, clawed, skeletal, shot out from the earth, grasping at his legs, pulling him down, pulling him harder. The suffocating smell of death filled his lungs as he let out a final, terrified scream. Milo watched, his terrible smile widening. The last thing Ethan saw before the darkness consumed him was Lucas, standing right beside Milo. Both of them were grinning as the chorus of whispers swelled into a final, triumphant peal of laughter. The next morning, a mail carrier on his route noticed 3 bicycles leaning against the rusted fence of Hollow Hill Cemetery. The gate was open, just wide enough for someone to slip through. Police searched the grounds for hours. They found nothing, no footprints, no disturbed graves, no sign of a struggle. All they found were 3 flashlights, lying in a perfect triangle near the old church ruins. Each one was pointed at a different, unmarked grave. Sometimes when the fog settles low and thick over Hollow Hill, passers-by say they can hear laughter drifting through the trees, the distant, echoing laughter of 3 boys. And if you listen very, very closely, you might just hear the whisper carried on the wind. Stay. Thanks for listening to this chilling tale. If you enjoy stories that send a shiver down your spine, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, don't go looking for Hollow Hill.